gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's September the 27th, 2023. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined this morning by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day. And Matt, I thought since you've been in the lab for a few days that the news of the day would be the news of the last several days, because we haven't really had the chance to allow your legions of Matt Shodell fans out there to hear your great wisdom on the wide variety of subjects that we've been presenting on the website over the past few days and continue to present this morning. And I haven't spoken to you since I got back from Philly, where you sent me to get apple fritters, and the sign on the store said that they were selling pickles or something along those lines. But I did finally figure out the way to get the apple fritters, and they were spectacular. Great job on your referral in Philly. But anyway, so you have been in the lab studying tape of the Temple game, before the Temple game, looking up ahead to North Carolina, Georgia Tech, the two teams that are next on the schedule, analyzing where Miami is at right now, 4 games into the season. So let me start out by saying, take the floor and give us your thoughts on what you're seeing as you pull all these elements together into different content items that are on the website right now.
Yeah, the team's looking pretty good. So I've been, going through some different stuff. Obviously, I've actually already started looking at Georgia Tech tape. I've been looking at North Carolina tape. Obviously, looking at Miami tape. Miami's whole thing this week is to self-scout, self-evaluate, figure out what they can do better, what they can do differently. Because, a lot of this, what I like about Lance Guidry in particular is a lot of coaches, when you look, the season's a grind, right? Every week, you're just preparing for the next team, trying to fix personnel problems, fill in injuries, make sure guys know stuff, all the extraneous stuff that nobody ever hears about. But what he specifically said he wants to do is not just look at his team and his tape and who's not doing what right and teaching guys, going. A lot of times what you do is you go back to spring practice mode, fall camp mode during this week, go back to basics, rehash everything, go back over some of the film that, here's what you guys did wrong, this is what you got to fix, What he says he's doing, or did, we didn't talk to him this week, is looking not just at that, but he's taking the approach that, okay, I'm the other offense coordinator, and this is what I'm seeing. This is how I'm going to attack it. So now if I'm the defense coordinator, how do I answer that? Because he recognizes that his secondary is a big problem. This is part of what we're writing about this week. They've played 3 really bad passing offenses, 3 really bad total offenses. They played a really good Texas A&M offense, ranking-wise, statistic-wise, but Texas A&M has got more yards against Miami throwing the ball than the average on the year. So pretty much there's still a lot of unanswered questions about Miami's pass defense in the Lance Guidry system, and fans are quick to say, "Oh, but we're missing 3 starting defensive linemen. They'd sack them every time. Like, what's the worry?" Oh,
and he's not using all his blitz packages. In fairness,
right. But when you look at the Pro Football Focus numbers, which some people don't agree with, whatever. Corey Couch clearly has not been very good in coverage. I think it was like he's going 12 of 17 for 183 yards, something like that. I don't remember. I have to look at the actual story. But he has not been good when he's been targeted. Darryl Porter, surprisingly, has been the best. He hasn't been targeted a lot, but he's done well. I think like maybe 3 for 8 against him passing, something like that. And it's just been average, right? And if you remember, fans coming to this, somebody pointed out yesterday how we were saying, well, I was saying there were some concerns entering the season about Lance Guidry and Shannon Dawson because they never have coached at this level, and they're going against coordinators who aren't major Power 5 coordinators who maybe don't see the same way to attack things. And, when you go against Texas A&M and you see that Guidry wasn't really exposed, especially in the first half, the second half he sort of was, but the first half he really wasn't, you say, okay, we've got something here. But now when you look at the totality of it and you look at the Miami secondary really not holding up the way they should against 3 bad teams and 1 good team that they gave up more passing yards again than that team's averaging, like there's reason for concern. And so I sort of went through, well, what's left on the schedule for Miami, ranking-wise, offense and defense. I know it's early. They played 4 games. One of the games was against Miami. I get it. But when you look at the opponents that are left who have not played Miami yet, right? 5 of the 8 opponents are ranked in the top 40 in the nation. Okay, 5 of the 8 final opponents are ranked in the top 40 in the nation in passing yards per game. Passing yards per game. That's potentially Miami's weakness. Georgia Tech's one of them. So Haynes King, the Texas A&M transfer who did not play against Miami last year, Max Johnson did, has been doing really well. He's got 11 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. He's averaging 280-something passing yards a game, and he can run the ball. So to me, that's actually a little bit. Look, Georgia Tech's not got the receivers that FSU does. That even that Clemson's receivers aren't that good this year, but they have better receivers. Okay, than Georgia Tech, FSU. You go on the list, but this will at least give us an indication. And then North Carolina will be an even bigger indication, right? These next 2 games will tell us, in my opinion, definitively whether Matt Shodell is 100% on board with a Lance Guidry attacking defense that leaves his cornerbacks on an island, or if Matt Shodell says he's got to do something different. Because as you look at the film study we did this morning, we didn't put the good plays in. There are plenty of good plays. We put in simply 2 halves of games that were the problems that we've seen. The biggest problems came in the second half against Texas A&M and in one of the halves against
the first
Temple.
half against Temple. Yeah.
And all we did was take those 2 halves. That's it. And we just charted, okay, here are some of the plays. What went wrong? And we looked closer at what went wrong. And it wasn't just one thing. It wasn't, this is one guy who needs to be replaced. He's not doing well. Or, this guy needs help over the top. No, it was multiple different factors, from scheme to confusing this defense, right? To dropping guys that shouldn't be dropping in coverage, like a Jaden Wayne, like Francis Mauigoa on a running back, who's fast, or who's a receiver, I think, whoever it was, How Francisco read that play was incorrect. Okay, you can look at it. He ran up thinking it was a run play instead of doing his assignment. And what we see, if there is a common thread right now, the common thread is that Lance Guidry, and the reason these guys love his defense is he lets them play. He doesn't say think, then respond. And you clearly see a lot of these mistakes are because they're just playing. They're not thinking. There was one play you can see where there's a stop and go. Literally 3 guys, a cornerback and 2 linebackers, charge up on the stop, and then the guy just releases and goes past all 3 of them for an easy. It was a touchdown or a long gain. I cut up 20 clips, but it's things like that are just repetitive. I keep seeing the aggressiveness is killing Miami on these plays, and yeah, the aggressiveness also helps Miami, right? We didn't put those plays in. The aggressiveness certainly helps. It helps you get sacks. Helps you get tackles for loss, helps you get interceptions, disruptive plays, makes the quarterback uncomfortable, all those things. But there is a flip side to it. And the teams that have great cornerbacks, and this is what I said before the season, if Miami has great cornerbacks, any team in this system that has great cornerbacks, this defense will be unstoppable. But any system that doesn't have good cornerbacks that can cover one-on-one will have a lot of problems in Lance Guidry's system. And the jury's still out on if Miami has great cornerbacks. And we're going to find out these next couple of weeks. Like, that's the bottom line for me. I don't know how else to put it. And then on the offensive side for Miami, it's all, sparkles and apple fritters and blueberry fritters and pickles or whatever the hell Gary wound up buying. I don't know what the hell he was talking about. There's no pickles near there. But the offense looks great. And the best news for the offense is it's the exact inverse of the defense. Whereas Miami's defense has to face 5 teams that have top 40 passing attacks, top 35. I think a couple of them are in the top 10 in scoring offense. 4 of them are, total offense, top 35. You can read the stories we're going to have this week. But the flip side is, and we're doing these stories also, Miami's offense, the defenses Miami's playing this year, they're not real good. I'm trying. Let me see if I can call up some of these numbers here. But I mean, yeah, here we go. So just for instance, Georgia Tech, number 99 in scoring defense. North Carolina, number 55 in scoring defense. Clemson, 56. Virginia, number 124 in scoring defense. I think there's only 123 teams, okay? No, I'm kidding. They're 124th. NC State, 54. Florida State, 56 in the nation in scoring defense. Louisville's 39th, but 64th in total defense, yards allowed. Boston College, 118th in scoring defense. Those are the 8 teams. Miami's offense is going to break records this year, okay? Tyler Van Dyke will break the record for touchdown passes on the year, maybe for yards passing on the year. And the scariest thing is the run game still also might be running for ridiculous amounts of yards. Like, That's how bad these other defenses are and how good Miami's offense is. Like, Shannon Dawson's scheme, to me, has passed all the tests. Everything I was concerned about entering the season has gone out the window. He has passed every test. Lance Guidry's defense, the tests still have to be passed. We haven't seen it yet. That's the concern. If he can pass those tests, this is a 10, 11, maybe even a 12-win team. But we've seen it every year for the last 19 years. Some years the offense is really good and the defense struggles. Some years the defense is really good and the offense struggles, and they haven't been able to have both of them up there at a really high level, playing the same way at the same time. And it's going to be on Lance Guidry and this defense to be playing up there at the level the offense is, because the offense is off the charts and will continue to be off the charts as long as Tyler Van Dyke and Matt Lee stay healthy. Those are the two key players. I don't care about Restrepo. I don't care about Colby Young. I don't care about Jacoby George. Those are the two guys. Tyler Van Dyke, Matt Lee. Either of those guys goes down, Miami offense will have 7 to 10 points less a game. That's how important those two guys are to this offense, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can't disagree. But first things first, you mentioned it, so I might as well address it right now. You told me to go to Byler, a place called Byler's, and you told me to go get apple fritters.
Or blueberry fritters. But yeah, apple fritters were my favorite, yes.
Yeah. So I go specifically to this Reading food market.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard to park, the whole thing. I'm busy. I've already been to the Rocky Steps, the whole thing. But I did it in honor of you. I went and I'm in this big hall.
Was it a long line for the fritters?
No.
Really?
No, because nobody would know there were fritters. I'm going to show you. I'm going to explain to you why in a minute. So I'm looking all in this big market for Byler's because Matt told me I got to go buy these fritters. Okay. So finally, after about 20 minutes of looking, I find Byler's. Okay. And this is what it says. Byler's Pickle Patch, pickles and salads. Okay. I'm like, what is Matt talking about?
Gotcha, Ferman. Gotcha.
He's sending me to a pickle patch to buy apple fritters. Well, I'm not going to tell you what happened, but I finally found the apple fritters that Matt was talking about. And, as usual, he was out in left field, but I was able to find some apple fritters at this market. I assumed that they were what Matt was talking about. I bought them. They were unbelievable. So if any of you guys like apple fritters and you're in Philly, go to this market and just find the apple fritters. I'm not going to tell you to go to Byler's because the sign says they're a pickle patch. Okay. But if you like apple fritters, this place in Philly at the Reading Market has great apple fritters. But anyway, so Matt, so that's the deal. All right. Now back to these stories you've been doing because they've been pretty good. All right. So you started out and you did a look at how the Miami offense is flying high with the best output that a Miami offense has had, since 2002, which is accurate. This is the first time they have scored 38 points a game in 4 consecutive games to start the season. So unquestionably, the Miami offense has been doing great. All right, so let me specifically get you to hone in on that first, since we have not gotten you to weigh in on this. Why has the Miami offense been doing great?
Why?
Yeah.
Every reason. I mean, the main reason to me is the offensive line. If it all starts, and Mario Cristobal knows it all starts with the offensive line. If you have a bad offensive line, you can't pass protect, you can't run, you can have all sorts of breakdowns, the take a turn offense, whatever. This offensive line has been maybe even better than advertised. They are relentless. They are doing what they're supposed to. They seem to understand what they're supposed to do. And super physical. I mean, it's everything you want in an offensive line. I mean, I think Gary Ferman could complete half his passes behind this offensive line, and Gary Ferman could average 2 yards a carry behind this offensive line.
I was a hell of an all-time quarterback. All the years, my kids,
yes,
when my kids were growing up, man, we had some monster touch flag football games out on the streets in front of my house, in the neighborhood, at the parks and stuff. And I was always the all-time QB, and I had some great years, man. So I made some great throws, made some little kids look really, really good in all those games.
I'll need some of your 8mm tape to
be careful, man. Be careful. Don't challenge my superb athletic ability.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, look, and then Tyler Van Dyke is making good decisions, throwing good passes. The receivers are the same receivers as last year, right? But the bottom line is it's all clicking. There's more excitement. I mean, it's clear, and we knew it last year. It's clear last year's offensive system demoralized the entire team from Tyler Van Dyke down. And when your quarterback is beaten down and not playing well, which was the case early in the year, and then he got hurt, it's trickle down economics, just like I've talked about in the past. But this year, it's all Byler's pickles and donuts, and everything's looking great. You got 4 running backs who are all very capable. Don Chaney, I was happy to see him get the start last week. Obviously, coaches don't just make up that you earned it in practice. Henry Parrish started every game last year. Henry Parrish started the first 3 games this year, and then Don Chaney gets the first rep against Temple at Temple because he earned it in practice. And it's a message from the coaches, because I don't know about Henry Parrish this year, but I know Henry Parrish last year, he wasn't always focused. He wasn't always ready to be physical, ready to do everything it took to win a game. So I assume that Don Chaney earned it over Henry Parrish. I'm not going to say Henry Parrish did anything wrong last week. I have no idea. But Don Chaney obviously did more to say to the coaches, here's why I want to start. Here's why I deserve to start. And they started him. And that's the kind of thing we need to see more of, because we've seen so much in the past where coaches just deferred. Okay, well, this guy started the last whatever number of games. Let's not rock the boat. Let's not make so-and-so upset, and that's not the case anymore. Mario Cristobal, and I've said it over and over again, he knows what he's doing. He's a tireless worker, one of the greatest recruiting coaches, probably the best in the nation, head coach recruiting. There's really nothing he doesn't, in my opinion, do correctly or understand correctly, other than time management and game day coaching. Everything else, he's an A++++. Like, there's nothing that you can want more. And I was at Break the Fast eating my upside down pineapple cake on Monday. And by the way, I told my son, I said I had this amazing upside down pineapple cake. He says, "How does that work?" He had never heard of upside down pineapple cake. I guess he assumed it was hanging from the ceiling and I had to somehow eat the bottom of it. I don't know. But anyway, so as I break the fast talking, of course, people want to talk about the Hurricanes. There was 30 people there. And I said, listen, the bottom line is this. It hasn't worked for 19 years. If it doesn't work under Mario Cristobal, because I know Mario Cristobal, I know how hard he works. I know what he does. I know he understands Miami. He's done it other places. If he can't get it fixed here, nobody else will be able to, because this person was telling me he's got another couple of years and that's it. If it doesn't work out in the next couple of years, that's it.
What are these people talking about?
If it doesn't work under Mario, this program's in big, big trouble forever. So yeah. So the good news, and I'm going to write a column on this later this weekend when I have time after I get out of my film study box. Everyone's so focused right now on being 4-0 and can we beat Clemson and beat Florida State and beat North Carolina? To me, that's not what this is about. Okay, what people should be celebrating instead of worrying about can we win this, can we win that? What people should be celebrating is what we were last year as a Miami Hurricanes nation, and the upward trajectory that this program is clearly on. Nobody talks about that. All they talk about is the current, present, the Instagram, social media world. It has to be right now, right now, right now. Nobody ever stops and looks at the donuts and looks at the big picture and says, wow, look what we were last year, 4 games into the season. Look what we are this year, 4 games into the season. And now extrapolate that out a couple of years, assuming that this blueprint takes hold and keeps on going, which there's no reason it won't, and where the program will be, which is, I'll make the point. I don't think this is a national championship team this year. Some fans might think I'm wrong. I don't think this is an ACC title championship team this year. Some fans might think I'm wrong. But I do think this is a playoff team within 2 to 3 years, which I've been saying consistently. As negative as I am, I've been saying it since when the team was 5-7 last year. I was saying it, okay? I said 2 to 3 years, this will be a playoff team. And now people just see what I've been saying is true. I mean, it's true. And could it happen this year? Sure. Only not because Miami's so great, but because FSU probably should have lost to Clemson on the last couple of minutes field goal. Clemson's lost 2 games. North Carolina wasn't that good last year. Are they really that good this year? I don't know. It remains to be determined. Their defense still has some holes, even though they're better than last year. And their offense obviously is great behind a top 5 NFL draft pick quarterback. But why can't? Why we said it before? Why not Miami? Right? I wrote that column. Why not Miami? Yeah, and that's still true. But again, it's not because Miami's a championship level team. It's not because Miami's roster. Someone posted on the CaneSport message board, "Can we beat Alabama right now?" And people are like, "Yeah, of course we beat Alabama." And I'm like, no, Alabama's roster still is better than Miami's. And they're like, yeah, but it's a better roster, but I still think we beat them. I'm like, listen, logically, okay, in the real world, right? If you have two fighters, right, Gary Ferman on one end of the ring, and Hulk Hogan in his prime on one end of the ring, like Hulk Hogan has better stats. Hulk Hogan is a 5-star.
I'm all over Gary Ferman on that one.
And look, it's not quite that big of like a dichotomy, but the point is, you at some point you have to just use some basis in reality, and the basis in reality is Alabama's been great, still has a great roster, still has great coaches other than Kevin Steele. Wink, wink. And I think Alabama would probably beat Miami. God forbid I say it because I cover the Miami Hurricanes. I think Alabama might beat Miami. Oh my God, people's minds are going to be blowing. It's gotten so ridiculous. Miami was going to start 4-0.
How about Manny Diaz's defense? State? How about that one?
Oh, sorry, 5-0. Yeah, I know.
What defense would you rather have, Manny Diaz's defense at Penn State or Lance Guidry's defense this year with the Miami Hurricanes?
In terms of players or in terms of the defensive coordinator? I'd rather have Lance Guidry as my coordinator personally. I haven't studied the Penn State defense.
Some people think they're really the best defense in the country.
Yeah, obviously they're really, really good. And listen, Manny Diaz had one of the best defenses in the country at Miami. He's not a good head coach. We know this. But he's a really good defense coordinator. I don't think anyone would argue with that. I mean, no one's going to say Manny Diaz is a garbage defense coordinator because he was a bad head coach who didn't like to recruit. That doesn't make any sense. He's a really, really good, bordering on great, aggressive defense coordinator if that's what you want.
Yeah. All right. So you took that and then you followed it up and took it a step further and projected the remaining opponents and how those opponents look on defense, and came to the conclusion that the Hurricanes offense can keep flying high the rest of the season based on the fact that they really aren't playing a great defense. The best defense they're playing would probably be Clemson, which is number 8 in total defense right now. A little bit of an aberration that Clemson has 2 losses, but they do. They did lose 2 games, and but their defense is still pretty damn good. And all fine and good.
They're not. The funny thing is they're number 56 in scoring defense and number 8 in total defense. And that stuff always tends to come back to earth. Yeah, they're a really good defense. And the funny thing is, on the flip side, Florida State's the number 8 scoring offense, but they're the number 47 total offense ranking, right? Number 75 rushing offense, number 32 passing offense. It's like the opposite. But those things tend to come back to earth. I mean, if you're scoring on special teams, if you're scoring on interceptions, it's not your offense. I mean, eventually it's going to catch up. Like Florida State's offense, to me, total offense matters more than scoring offense. It shows efficiency. It shows moving the chains. It shows you have playmakers. So if you're asking me which is the more important statistic, I'm going total offense and total defense, not with scoring offense and scoring defense. So yeah, I think Clemson's defense.
That's a tough call though, because all that really matters is how many points you score.
Correct. But again, this is not a vacuum. In an actual game, yeah, you need the points. But in reality, when you look at film, which is what coaches do and what you base reality on, you're seeing how many yards they move for. Not how many. They scored on a 1-yard run instead of getting a field goal. I mean, whatever. Certainly there's situations like that. But on average, if you have an offense that's consistently moving the ball for a ton of yards, you're going to wind up getting a ton of points. And if you don't, it's just through sheer dumb bad luck, and you got to make some better third down calls in the red zone type of thing, which you can do. I mean, there's a lot of people whose film you can watch on third down plays. And, Georgia Tech coming up, by the way, is one of the really good offenses. And when you look at their red zone film, they use Haynes King. Haynes King can run now. He can run. And they like to do a lot of really tricky stuff in red zone, especially on the goal line where they'll have all the action looks like it's a handoff. In the 1-yard line, they do this. All the action looks like a handoff to the left side. Then all of a sudden, Haynes King does an RPO, runs to the right with a tight end in front of him. And the tight end you'd think is going to be a blocker, right? And there's only one defensive guy there left because the slot receiver on the right side has gone to the left in the end zone to carry his defender away. And then instead of being a blocker, the tight end now is a receiver, and the defender has to decide, am I going to, guard the tight end or go after the quarterback? And in this case, Haynes King runs in untouched. But they present a lot of different looks because they have a really athletic quarterback. They have tight ends that can catch. They run a really innovative system. Now, the only thing that I think that Miami is going to really have a field day with is Georgia Tech loves to run these, bubble screens and running back screens and tunnel screens, like just quick passes, horizontal passes, which at Miami, they never work. Georgia Tech's found a way to make them actually hit for some really big gains, which we'll look at next week. But like, that's Lance Guidry's bread and butter. I mean, that's what he loves. He loves, if you're not going to throw down the field on him, he will stop you. And Georgia Tech loves to throw these little quick passes and stuff like that. And I think that Miami, if they try to do that against Miami, the second half will look more like Texas A&M. In the first half, Georgia Tech will be shut down. And Miami will be up by 30 points by the time Georgia Tech realizes, oh, wait a minute, we should have been trying to throw over the top the whole time, because Georgia Tech does not like to do that. They like to do a lot of quick stuff. But we'll look at that next week.
All right, and then the last analysis that's on the website this morning is on the defensive backfield, the secondary, and you come to the very easy conclusion that there's things to shore up going into these next set of games. Matt, why has the Miami secondary been having problems? You can debate maybe what's the degree of the difficulties they're having, but I think they've been having a lot more problems than people want to accept. And I think that is what is compromising these results coming up as much as anything. But your thoughts on the Miami secondary, why it's possibly struggled and what they can do to fix it?
Yeah, and even Jaden Davis, who, as good as he's been, so physical and great against the run, he hasn't been great when he's been targeted either. So you got Jaden Davis has been giving up some catches. Corey Couch has been giving up some catches. And it's because they're left one-on-one a lot. And that's just the style of defense that Lance Guidry plays, and he's done it everywhere. And he's willing to give up plays here and there in order to, get third down stops 60% of the time or whatever it is, in order to create disruptive plays, in order to make the quarterback uncomfortable and hit him. He clearly said to us, he said at a press conference once, or maybe it was after a game, he literally said to us, I think somebody said, you have such a good defensive line, why don't you just rush 4 and, keep your guys in coverage more to help out the pass defense? He says, offenses love it when you only rush 4, So he's going to bring pressure against everybody all the time. That's his philosophy. And it creates some issues if the cornerbacks can't hold up well. And that's clear in today's story. I mean, you guys can look at the video. I'm not making it up. I mean, just look at the videos, see what happened for yourselves. I mean, write up what happened in each play. You could see a lot of it's aggressiveness problems with eye discipline. And some of it's just plain out guys just aren't able to cover one-on-one because cornerbacks aren't built. They're not supposed to be able to cover a wide receiver one-on-one for extended periods of time, period. If the pass rush doesn't get there really quickly, someone's going to be open when you run a 3-4 wide. And if the defense is bringing pressure, that's just the nature of the beast. If any of you have ever gone to a practice, probably even at the high school level, but certainly the college level, when they do one-on-ones, receivers versus cornerbacks, the receivers are going to catch the ball 80% of the time, with no pass rush in those drills. That's just how it is, because the receiver knows where he's going. The quarterback knows where the receiver's going. The cornerback has no idea where either one is going. And, that is what it is. Unless you're much faster, much more athletic than the receiver, you're not going to stop the play. So this is what we've seen happen at times. And, it's what Lance Guidry is going to be working on this week. My guess is he's going to be more conservative moving forward because he's smart. He knows what he's doing, okay? Way smarter than I am. My guess is we'll see a lot less blitzing than we've seen in the first 4 games because he's going to look, he's going to see what other teams are going to want to do to him. And what they're going to want to do is have him blitz now, because when he blitzes and drops a defensive end, when he blitzes and puts a linebacker on his slot guy, when he blitzes and leaves his, the boundary receivers one-on-one where he just toss the ball up if his receiver has 3 inches on the cornerback, that's going to happen quite a bit against these really good passing offenses that are coming up. And he's going to have to start doing a lot of too high safety, help out the cornerbacks in some way or another, and not bring pressure all the time and mix it up. That's just what he's going to have to do, and I expect him to do that. I think it'll be fine. If he follows Matt Shodell's advice, it'll be fine. If not, it'll be a disaster. The program will be crashing and burning. And just like when Gary went and found a pickle farm instead of his donuts, it'll be very upsetting.
I don't think too many of us out here think this team is going to go undefeated, but when it does lose, assuming it does lose.
How dare you? What kind of mentality is that? It's a loser mentality for him.
Here's what I'm asking you. Is the pass defense going to be the reason if this team loses a game? How about it?
I think so, yeah.
Let me put it in those terms.
Yeah, I think so.
It's going to be a team that can throw the ball successfully. So, you look ahead to who can do that. Certainly North Carolina can do it. Kane's got to go on the road to play North Carolina. I think Florida State can do it if the quarterback is not harassed. They can certainly do it. Beyond that, I haven't really watched a lot of Louisville. I mean, Louisville's undefeated. right now.
Louisville's good.
Jeff.
All right, listen. It's time for my
Brom is
breakfast.
a very good
Let's go get some breakfast, Ferman. Let's go. Let's wrap it up. I'm
Well,
starving.
Jeff Brom is a good passing game quarterback, so they could give some problems as well. But that would be something to look towards as you go through the future. Teams that can throw the football give Miami a hard time. But you guys can check out the entire set of analyses so far they're all on the website this morning. Make sure you do so. All right. A couple other things that I wanted to touch on that are on the website today. We have our weekly Pro Canes roundup. You could check out the NFL stats and highlights of all the former Miami players in the National Football League. Make sure you do that. We had a chance to talk to Jim Larrañaga yesterday, so we've got a basketball update for you on the website today. The Canes have begun practice. They are looking to get back to the Final Four. They got a very good team. You can see what Jim Larrañaga has to say about that. We have the usual array of recruiting features. We have a story on Josiah Trader at Hollywood Chaminade from the eyes of his coach, who talks to us about what he's doing well, how he's gotten better, how he's performing in general. Check that story out. We've got a story on Thomas Worthington, a 3-star Pittsburgh commit. Columbus Thomas Worthington High 3-star Pittsburgh commit Francis Brieux. He's continued to be named, thrown around in Miami recruiting circles since he got an offer in late August. We have the latest on him. You can also catch up on 2025 5-star edge Zayden Walker. He's the number 1 edge prospect in the recruiting class of 2025, the number 6 overall prospect. The Canes are battling programs like Georgia and Florida State for him. You can check that out as well. In addition, if you missed last night's CaneSport live show, we've got the replay available to you on the website this morning. So make sure you check that out if you did not get a chance to watch that show last night or listen to it. And then we've got the Lamar Thomas show coming up tonight at 8. So make sure you guys tune in for that tonight at 8. Always a very entertaining show when Lamar's in the house, and we think that you would enjoy that show as well. So Matt needs to go eat, so that's going to do it for Good Morning CaneSport for this morning. We thank you so much for starting out your day with us, and if you are on YouTube and you like this show, like this channel, hit your subscribe button, hit your like button. It helps us with the algorithms at YouTube. And if you're watching CaneSport.com or on YouTube as well, and you are not yet a subscriber to CaneSport, please, please, please come join our community of fans. Become a member of our site. You will not be disappointed. We have our entire team grinding every single day to create content that will allow you to best experience your fandom and enhance it. And we hope we accomplish that at least on most days. We don't think you'll be sorry if you come to CaneSport.com and get a subscription. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you again, everybody, for starting your day with us today, and we will see you tomorrow.